look at the human embryos that are destroyed in stem cell research, what is a 3-day-old human embryo? It is a collection of 150 cells. That may sound like a lot of cells to lay people. It does, but there are 100,000 cells in the brain of a fly. Now, it seems to me, if our concern is about suffering in this universe, it is rather obvious that we should be more concerned about killing flies than about killing 3-day-old human embryos. Now, this may sound like a very provocative claim. I would argue that it shouldn't, if you look at the details. Now, many people, of course, will argue, well, the difference between a fly and a 3-day-old human embryo is that a 3-day-old human embryo is a potential human being. This runs into problems. Every cell in your body, given the right manipulations, every cell with a nucleus, is now a potential human being. I mean, literally, every time you scratch your nose, you have committed a holocaust of potential human beings. So the argument for a cell's potential doesn't get you anywhere. But let's take this a little bit further. Let's say we granted that every 3-day-old human embryo has a soul worthy of our moral concern. There are other problems that await this description. First of all, embryos at this stage can split into what we call identical twins. Now, is this a case of one soul splitting into 2 souls? Embryos at this stage can fuse into what we call a chimera. Many people in this room could have developed in this way. Now, I suspect that there are theologians trying to figure out what has happened to the extra-human soul in such a case. It's time we realize that this arithmetic of souls doesn't make any sense. It's intellectually indefensible, but it is morally indefensible, given that these notions really are prolonging the scarcely endurable misery of tens of millions of human beings. And because of the respect we accord religious faith, not even just people of faith, even advocates of stem cell research accord the faith respect, we can't have this dialogue in the way that we should. So I submit to you that if you think that the interests of a blastocyst, a 3-day-old human embryo, just may trump the interests of a little girl with spinal cord injury or a person with full-body burns, your moral intuitions have been obscured by religious metaphysics. And this is a kind of blindness that is very well subscribed in our society, and it's a blindness that goes by another name. It goes by the name of religious faith, and we have been cowed into respecting it. So in conclusion, I just want to point out another issue. I want to return to this question of truth and the truth of religious doctrine, because it's interesting to notice that even if we got our morality out of religion, even if religion was supremely useful, this would not be an argument for the existence of God. I mean, just imagine if atheists were really reliably immoral and religious people were exquisitely moral. Would this argue for the specific truth of Christian doctrine or the doctrine of Islam? Faith could function like a placebo. The idea of God could be perfectly vacuous and yet incredibly useful. I think there's much evidence to suggest that it's not. But even if it were, this is not an argument for the truth of religious doctrine. And this is surprisingly hard for people to see. And it is amazingly easy to see when you change the subject from God to some ordinary proposition. I mean, just imagine if I claim that I'm one of the fastest people who has ever lived, and I could have won many Olympic gold medals in track and field had I only tried. Now, if you ask me why I believe this about myself, well, let's say I maintain this even contrary to the evidence, even in the company of Olympic sprinters who can run circles around me. You ask me why I believe this. What if I said things like, well, being the fastest man alive has brought me immense satisfaction? Or what if I said, the winning a gold medal in the Olympics is one of the highest human honors, and just imagining those medals around my neck just makes me feel fantastic and gives my life meaning. it's pretty clear what is wrong with these answers. I mean, this is the fact that it would be nice if something were true, or the fact that believing it to be true gives you some positive effect in your life, is not a reason to believe that it is true. And we readily understand this in every area of our lives. And this is why we have phrases like wishful thinking and self-deception and delusion. And so my argument to you across the board is that a person who believes that an invisible and all-knowing deity is taking an interest in their lives and occasionally doling out good fortune to them should not be free to say that he believes this because it gives his life meaning, because it makes him a better person, because he values the experience of going to church on Sunday. These are non sequiturs. And so just in conclusion, I want to say that I think we have to acknowledge that these two approaches to morality really are in competition. Either we can focus on questions of human happiness in a very fine-grained way, bringing all of the last 2,000 years of human insight and human discourse to bear, and have a 21st century conversation about morality, or we can have a conversation born of the 1st century as preserved in the New Testament, or the 7th century as preserved in the Quran. And it is amazing how many intelligent people find this to be a difficult choice. The challenge for us is to really expose time and again that the choice is that. The opportunity is for human conversation. And it can either be modern, with everything useful brought on the table, or it can be fixated in the past out of deference to certain books. Thank you very much.